Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's February 29th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and an interesting day. Um, we really had two legs up here. The second leg was not quite a measured leg. You see, we missed it by a few points there, maybe 4 or 5 points. We missed it by, and generally, when you miss one that much, that is going to lead to a big sell-off on the other in the other direction. So that's another reason to look for these measured moves, because when you don't quite get them, that's telling you something. And there is a reversal pattern here. Notice how we pushed through the EMA and came back. The downtrend didn't really start to here. This was a little bit difficult to find, this channel here. This is what I saw, a double tiered channel. Uh, but I got it by drawing this line off these lows here and then dragging it up. Originally, I drug it up to here and it still didn't fit. It looked more like a midline. So then you drag it up to here and it fits. So that's how I found that. Really, there's a shorter term channel here that kind of set up the reversal pattern. So this wasn't easy to find for somebody. Somebody else sent me an email and asked me what I thought happened today, that they really got tripped up and had a big loss because of this reversal. But you shouldn't get a big loss regardless if you're trading properly. Um, Somebody else got confused on this move up here. Their chart looked a little bit different than mine, but you still could have found it, I believe. Um, Let me just make this a little bigger, and we'll talk about each of these areas a little more when we get to them. But notice this is one of those where you get those first few bars there, and you kind of draw it off of. But even if you waited to here, because at this point there's actually a shorter term one coming up through here, right up through here, so to speak, and you get a close and a move to a new high, and then you kind of go sideways here before you go on. But even if you were playing the short term move up to the other side of the range, once we got above, you could have still found the same line for the most part up through here, got the same results. Um, I probably would have drawn it a little more like so. You can see that does fit pretty well across there. You do get an overshoot, but it doesn't matter. You got the break here, an overshoot, and then we reversed. So it didn't matter how you saw it. You still should have got the same result. I'm not sure. I think he saw it as a spike and a channel, but mine's more going sideways than it's channeling. I didn't even try to draw that line really. So yeah, I guess you could see where you might try to draw it that way, and it does fit that way. Um, you never really get a break that way. You get the overshoot by a good bit, but there's still no trades up here either way you look at it. So it doesn't really matter. You're just waiting for something to change for the reversal or correction. So I think this is the way they saw it, a spike in a channel there. And so I can see how you could come up with that, but I was really more concentrated on the range, and this was just prices stalling to get above that range, and I'd drawn it off the lows. So, but even if you draw it this way, you get the overshoot. Um, an overshoot can lead to a reversal without a break in a new high, and that's kind of what happened here. So, again, I don't think it really matters how you see it. It's how you interpret what you actually see there. Um, but this was a big tail when we missed that measured move, and then we start trending down. As soon as we start making lower highs and lower lows consistently, this thing's kind of picked up steam. Uh, Most people realize it was a downtrend from here. So, but anyway, another thing you probably would have wanted to look for was a measured move on this range. And you can see that kind of got you into the right vicinity as well. And that one was a little more, we actually overshot that one a little bit. So, but you want to measure this first move up and then start from there for your second leg up. And when we didn't make that, and that was a big sign. But anyway, let's back out and talk about the trades and wrap it up for today. First trade I saw, you got a trend line working up through here, but this is a bigger pattern. It's not real obvious because you got the break real soon here. Somebody else asked me that earlier. How do you know whether you're playing the move back or you're playing the bigger channel? And the bigger pattern will generally take precedence. But just like here, I got this trade off of this shorter term. Notice this shorter term. You can see the lighter line there. You got a trend line, and I get it right off those first few closes. It bounces right off the line. And then you get a break here, but notice what happens. You get a second entry long after a break. You're looking for a retest of that high. This one, it's a breakout pullback long. It's a second entry long. You're looking for a retest of this high here. There's several reasons to like that long. It's not a perfect signal bar on mine. You might have used a limit order, and it broke higher and would have backed up and filled you a couple of ticks back in there. But you might have had a little better setup on your chart, but I still like that one. If this would have been a little bit more bearish, I probably would have said there's no setup there at all, because generally you want to see it back to the EMA or back to the trend line. But this is such a steep move, you're probably going to retest that high, so I think it's worth, and you can see how it really took off there. If you waited on a second entry off the low, you didn't get an opportunity to enter that one. Then of course, then we start working back to the EMA, but there's a channel here, and you never get a break until here, and so it's really risky entering here. But there's some reasons to consider this one. Notice that support working across there. So you could treat that similar to a failed break lower, and it does bounce right off the trend line. So if you saw that and read it that way, there's a reason to consider entering long. I still think it's a little bit risky, but it is a nice little reversal type bar, or that's not really a reversal bar, but it's a bullish bar right off that trend line. And but notice you did come up a little short over here, so that means you could overshoot it here and get a break. But we've got that break and then a new low, and then it bounced. This one could probably be green, but I think you need to wait on a second entry, and you never really get that. You get a second entry counting off the low here, so I liked entering then, and notice what happened too. It's back inside that support area, and it tested, and it holds, and it bounces. So I like that one, thinking we'd make a new high, but we still didn't. It's good for an easy scalp, but that's it. But then we move back down to the lows here, and you get a bounce here with a fairly bullish bar, and it went lower and turns up. But I think you need to wait on the next entry. And then your signal bar is not real bullish. It does bounce there. But again, I think this one has to be green. It's looking like a channel here, and you're getting the bounce like you expect, but you just don't get a very good signal bar. If you've got a better signal bar, that could be blue. But the way that looks on my chart, I think that's a little bit of an aggressive move. And so I'll mark that one in green. It goes right where you expect it to go. And notice this little gap here. I never did reload my data to see if that went away. That's interesting. I just wonder if was something with my charts, or if there's really a gap there. I'm going to reload that after I finish the chart lesson and see if it's there. But I just wonder if anybody else has that. That's really rare to gap completely like that. I'm guessing there's something with my chart, but I'm not sure. I wanted to go short right here. Notice you get a break. You don't quite get a new high, but you make a double top. And that's more of a sideways bar. It's a doji, and then this one doesn't close on its low, and it doesn't break lower. If you waited on this to break lower and dropped a limit order in there, I'm willing to give it a green under that circumstance, but I think you're better off to skip that one. It turns out to be a good trade. And then notice what happens. We get down here and we keep trying to go lower and lower, and we can't. And then you get a second entry long here on a failed break lower. By this time, you should have moved that line down a little bit. Notice how you're getting more closes down here. And you get that little one tick failed, and you get a nice bullish bar. Opens on its low, closes on its high. and it's a second entry. Notice that new high, pullback, first entry, pullback, second entry. And you did get your break of this and a new low, 2 legs down and 1 tick to a new low. So I like that one. Hoping to ride it back. This one's supposed to be blue. Kind of jumping ahead, but I'm going to change it since I noticed it. Quick, easy scalp, and it just gets hung up again. Notice you get another new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry, a nice bullish bar, just go long. Again, it's good for just enough to get a scalp. There's enough room to get out there, and then it backs up and it gives you another second entry. But look where it bounces right off that support area. It's not a perfect signal bar on mine, but I still like this one because it's bouncing off that support, and by this time it's pretty obvious this is holding, and you get another second entry. And this time it does, it goes straight to the other side. You don't really get another chance to enter this one until you get up here. And this is a breakout pullback long. It's also a bounce. If you drew that trend line right off those first few closes and off that bar, and notice that it bounces, you've got a couple different things going on here on this one. It's a breakout pullback long, but notice that you tested it once, you tested it twice, and you got such a little small doji there. You really have to put your stop below this one so it makes it a little bigger. But that's a pretty low risk trade, and you're expecting that we may buy, if we're going to break out successfully, it'll probably be out the top side. But if you saw this trend line the way I read it, I like that one, and that's really you got a new low there. It's really kind of the double test. It's like a 2 higher lows and a double bottom. So there's several different reasons I like that one. And notice this does make a double bottom, so you can treat that like a new low, and then you get a first entry and a second entry. So it's a failed second entry short, and by that time you got multiple bounces. You should have been able to find that trend line even if you started drawing it from there. And there's not a lot of room to get out, but when you try to go lower enough times and can't, and you're not successful, at some point you're going higher. So I like that one to go higher. And then it kind of pulls back and gives you another little, let me move this, break lower there. And so you really could, I almost like adding on right there. Again, I would probably make it green, but that's a good opportunity to kind of load up and expect it to go higher, because it just can't go lower and it can't close outside that trend line. It's telling you something, and then we shoot up. Now you finally, now notice how long we've been away from that EMA. At some point you're coming back because somebody else sent me an email, and they've been riding this thing, watching it go all day, and then they finally wait till up in here somewhere, or maybe it was a different day, I can't remember, but it's something similar to this. And then they finally decide to get long, like right here on this second entry, and then they get trapped. Well, the break has already happened. You got to move to a new high, so the move is over for the most part. And you got this channel working down. This is where you got to be real careful. At some point, once you get a break and a new high, even if you continue to get setups, just don't take them. Just don't go short, though, until you get your confirmed trend or your reversal pattern. And you got that failed second entry long right there. I definitely wouldn't be looking for a long at that point. It breaks higher and it fails and turns down. That's a great place to go short. And you might catch the high of the day there. It doesn't do that this time. It snaps back. But that's the first break of this shorter term one, so you're still looking for a new low, but you probably want to wait on a second entry. This one breaks higher and turns down and goes right out the other side. I don't even like that one really for a green one, because you got that little trend working up, and it just so many times it's going to turn back up. So you just got to miss that. You got to skip that one. And then you're working sideways here. I don't have my line on there. It just starts working sideways, but notice how everything, and that's another clue. Notice how going up, everything's above the EMA, and now everything's down. That's your clue that something's changed. So why you would hang on to this and let it go against you is just not a good move. And you got to figure at a minimum, why can't I get that line? For some reason I can't get it straight. At a minimum, we're coming back to test this breakout area. That's what you got to be thinking at a minimum. And notice how it does find support there, but it pushes right on through, and then you kind of get setup there. We'll explain that when we get to it. But you got this trading range. This starts going sideways. This is a failed break higher. It's a second entry short. Notice that new low, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. It's a fairly bearish bar. Just go short there. It does find support there again. So I don't like going adding on there or taking another entry. Probably have that right there. But notice this is just like a pullback to come back and test this. Usually it's going to be the lowest point, and you can see that we tested it twice. You get a second entry short right there. It's really only a first entry technically, but this is like 2 legs back to the EMA. So you could trade. That's a really bearish bar. I like going short below that one, but if not, when it pulls back and turns down, definitely go short. And I like adding on to that one if you're still in your first one. And the bottom fall. And you're looking now for it to come to here at least. And notice it pushes on through there and it comes back. And it really gives you kind of another chance. Again, you got this moving up. This is a second entry short. Notice the new low, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. And the thing's really weak here now. And another quick drop. And that gets you into the 2 o'clock. There's some question marks about this one because you're not back to the trend line. But I wasn't sure I was reading this 100%. But after the fact, it looks pretty valid. Notice that we're working on it from both sides here. That's the first break, and we move to a new low. So it does turn out to be valid, but I just wasn't 100% sure about it until we got a little more price action. So, but it's really weak here now too, and so I really like this setup right here. And that was pretty much it for today. So, not as many trades today, but you can't. If you see the market reverse here and you start making lower highs and lower lows, you got a downtrend, even if it's temporary or whatever. So you can't hold on to any longs. So I didn't see his chart, so I don't know what he was thinking. But I was a little concerned when this trader told me. He says, what happened today? We had a big reversal and I lost a lot of money because if you're trying to get long anywhere in here, your stop is always below the swing low, so you can't lose. You shouldn't lose any more money than that. And once you start seeing it making lower lows and lower highs, then you got to switch gears. Even if the way you thought it should play out didn't, because you might be reading it wrong. Don't hang on to a losing trade, hoping it's going to come back. That is the quickest way to lose all your money in a blowing account in no time. So you cannot do that. But pretty much we had to move up. We went sideways. We tried the next leg up. It was unsuccessful and the market sold off. And you can see we ended up closing down here. We didn't really get through that. We pushed through it, but we couldn't continue lower than that support right there from the overnight. But, never argue with the market. If it tells you, because you might be misreading it, but if you start making lower highs and lower lows, especially like this, you've got a downtrend. Doesn't matter what happened on the way up, because that happens occasionally. There's nothing written in stone. Even our rules are not 100% written in stone. They are the bias, and they're going to be right more times than not. But sometimes things just don't play out. So that's what I always try to tell people. You can't box what we do into a little set of neat rules. I had that conversation with another trader. There's not a neat little set of rules that if you follow the rules, you're going to be good. You got to look at the big picture. You got to be open-minded. And the rules help keep you on the right side, and you want to try to stick to them. But if suddenly you start trending down like this, forget the rules, and you got a downtrend. Start trading the rules to the downtrend. And, we got a big nice uptrend going here, but now you're going sideways, so switch to range rules. So you got to be a little bit flexible there, and you got to look at what's going on and not, don't try to question what you see. Don't expect the market to always do what you think it's going to do. Even if you're an expert price action reader, sometimes the market doesn't do what we think it's going to do, and the rules will generally play out but don't try to box those rules in and say, hey, until it does this, I'm still looking to enter this way or that way. I hope that makes sense. I don't want to get off on a tangent and confuse people, but the rules are there for a reason, but nothing is ever written 100% in stone. So go with what you see and not what you think you ought to see. That's probably the easiest way I know to put it. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.